burst the bubble of learning objectives. Now, this is part 3. In our part 1 and 2, we talked about the challenge of trying to remove and move our learning objectives, which is very classical in a lab setting. By the end of the session, you should know how to do these tasks, or you should be able to see this behavior, and in this condition, you should perform this at a certain timeline. So it's very isolated and very intended to have a lab setting for the learners to easily understand it. And this perfectly has its own purpose. However, in our prior session, we talked about dividing this into what you call a tasks objectives, and then adding on an application objectives. And the application objectives really focuses on 2 things. Number 1, experience, prior experience, and number 2, adding on the element of what you call contingencies. On experience is very interesting. What happens when you add an application objectives focusing on experience would be the following. You begin to train and help the learners to go back to simply say that, by the way, aside from this classical learning objective in this particular topic, you need to go back and know where to find sources of other information and experiences. And experiences comes from other people, even yourself, and even documentation, databases, statistical analysis, all sorts of FAQs, learning programs, documentation on the web, on video. They need to be able to know that there's what you call a retrieval system, a procedure of compiling and encoding and documenting experiences that is available for them to look to. But if you don't add that into the process of a learning objective, which is now part of the application objectives, we are limiting the learner's ability to connect using experiences as part of the learning process. So, Modernize the learning objectives, test this concept, we've tested it in many different ways, and it works, allows the learners to open up their mind that on top of the classical task objectives, there are experiences that are enriching to them to help them learn and apply the learning objectives.